When Dwayne Johnson walked into a struggling diner, he had no idea the waitress's secret would lead to a decision that shocked everyone. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning in the small town of Willow Creek. The sun peeked through the clouds, casting a warm glow on the town's only diner, Maggie's Place. The diner was buzzing with activity, plates clattering, coffee cups clinking, and soft chatter filling the air. Behind the counter, a young waitress named Lily moved swiftly, her tired but determined smile never fading. Lily was well-loved by the regulars. She had an infectious laugh and a way of making everyone feel welcome. But today, something was different. Her smile was there, but her eyes carried a sadness that even the usual coffee crowd couldn't miss. Among the diners that morning was someone unexpected. Dwayne Johnson, yes, the Dwayne Johnson, had slipped into town for reasons unknown. Wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses, he sat in a corner booth, almost unnoticed. He had planned for a quiet breakfast, but something about Lily caught his attention. As she refilled his coffee, he asked softly, "You okay?" Lily froze for a moment, surprised. "Oh, I'm fine," she replied quickly, her voice a little too bright. But Dwayne wasn't convinced. The moment passed, and Lily moved on to serve other customers. Yet Dwayne couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her story. He watched as she greeted every customer with warmth, even as her shoulders sagged under the weight of something invisible. Halfway through his meal, Dwayne overheard a hushed conversation between Lily and another waitress. "I don't know how much longer I can do this," Lily whispered, her voice breaking. "But I have no choice." Dwayne's fork paused midair. He didn't mean to eavesdrop, but those words lingered in his mind. What was Lily going through? Why did she seem so trapped? When Lily brought him the check, he looked her in the eye and said, "You're doing a great job, you know that?" For a split second, her mask slipped, and Dwayne saw a flicker of gratitude and pain. As Dwayne left the diner, he couldn't stop thinking about Lily. Something about her story called out to him. He glanced back at the diner, its neon sign, flickering in the morning light. There was more to this place, and to Lily, than met the eye. Dwayne made a decision. He turned back and walked inside, this time with a purpose. Dwayne stepped back into the diner, his towering frame catching the attention of a few customers. He made his way to the counter where Lily was stacking plates. She looked up, startled to see him again. "Back for more coffee?" she asked, with a hesitant smile, clearly puzzled. "Not this time," Dwayne replied, his voice calm but firm. "Can we talk for a minute?" Lily's brow furrowed, and she glanced around the diner. It was a busy morning, but her curiosity got the better of her. "Sure," she said, wiping her hands on her apron. "But I can't be long." Dwayne gestured toward an empty booth in the corner. They sat down, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. Lily's hands fidgeted with the edge of her apron, her eyes darting around nervously. "I don't mean to pry," Dwayne began, his tone gentle, "but I can tell something's going on. You don't have to tell me everything, but maybe I can help." Lily's eyes widened in surprise. She opened her mouth to respond, but hesitated. Finally, she said, "It's really kind of you to ask, but it's nothing I can't handle." Dwayne leaned back, studying her. He could tell she wasn't used to people offering help, or maybe she just didn't trust easily. "Fair enough," he said. "But if you ever need someone to listen, I'm here." Before Lily could reply, the bell above the diner door jingled, and an older man stormed in, his face red with anger. "Lily!" he barked, making her flinch. The man, who seemed to be in his 60s, stomped over to their booth. "What do you think you're doing, sitting around while there's work to be done?" Lily jumped to her feet. "I'm sorry, Mr. Wilkins, I was just—" "Save it," the man snapped. "Get back to work. Now." Dwayne watched the interaction, his jaw tightening. Mr. Wilkins must be the diner's owner. The way he treated Lily didn't sit well with him. As Lily hurried off, Dwayne stood up, towering over Mr. Wilkins. "You don't need to talk to her like that," he said, his voice low but steady. Mr. Wilkins scowled. "And who do you think you are?" Dwayne removed his sunglasses, and Mr. Wilkins's face went pale as recognition dawned. "I'm someone who doesn't appreciate bullies," Dwayne said firmly. The diner fell silent as the exchange drew everyone's attention. Mr. Wilkins sputtered, clearly unsure how to respond. After a tense moment, he muttered something under his breath and retreated to his office. Dwayne returned to his seat, but the mood in the diner had shifted. Lily glanced at him from behind the counter, her expression a mix of gratitude and fear. As the morning rush began to die down, Dwayne stayed in his booth, waiting. He wasn't, leaving until he got to the bottom of what was happening here. The lull in the diner's activity allowed Lily to catch her breath, but she couldn't shake the tension lingering in the air. She kept stealing glances at Dwayne, who hadn't moved from his booth. His steady presence was comforting, but it also made her uneasy. Why would someone like him care about her problems? Eventually, Dwayne called her over with a wave. Lily hesitated, but walked over, clutching her notepad as if it were a shield. "I didn't mean to cause trouble," he said, his tone soft. "But I couldn't stand the way that guy talked to you." Lily shrugged, her lips pressed into a thin line. "It's fine. He's always like that." "It's not fine," Dwayne countered, his voice firm but kind. "Nobody deserves to be treated that way." For a moment, Lily's guard dropped, and her eyes glistened with unshed tears. She quickly blinked them away and straightened her posture. "Thanks for standing up for me," she said quietly. Dwayne leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Lily, if there's something going on, something more than just a rude boss, you can tell me. I'm not here to judge, and I promise I'll do whatever I can to help." Lily opened her mouth to respond, but was interrupted by the sound of raised voices from the kitchen. Both she and Dwayne turned toward the noise. "Not again," Lily muttered under her breath. She rushed toward the kitchen, and Dwayne followed a few steps behind, his curiosity piqued. Inside, a young man, barely out of his teens, was arguing with one of the cooks. His face was flushed, and he looked ready to burst. "Leave him alone, Tony," Lily said, stepping between them. "Lily, stay out of this," the cook growled. "This kid needs to learn some respect." The young man, whom Dwayne guessed was Lily's younger brother, glared at the cook. "I'm not the one disrespecting people," he snapped. "That's enough," Lily said, her voice firm. "Both of you, back to work, now." The tension in the room was thick, but the cook eventually backed down, muttering under his breath as he returned to the grill. Lily turned to the young man. "What were you thinking, Sam? You can't keep doing this." "I'm tired of him acting like he owns the place," Sam retorted. "It's bad enough dealing with Wilkins." Lily sighed, her shoulders sagging. "I know, but we can't afford to lose this job. Just keep your head down, okay?" Sam grumbled but nodded, and Lily ushered him out of the kitchen. When she turned around, she found Dwayne watching her, his expression unreadable. "That's your brother?" he asked. Lily nodded. "He's just having a hard time, that's all. And you're trying to hold everything together," Dwayne said, more to himself than to her. "There's more to this story, isn't there?" Lily hesitated, torn between opening up and keeping her secrets. Before she could decide, the bell above the diner door jingled again. A tall man in a dark suit walked in, his presence commanding immediate attention. Lily froze, her face draining of color. Dwayne noticed her reaction and stood protectively at her side. The man's eyes scanned the diner before landing on Lily. He smirked and said, "We need to talk, now." The diner seemed to hold its breath as the man in the suit approached. His polished shoes clicked against the floor, and his smirk widened as he neared Lily. "Who's this guy?" Dwayne asked, his eyes narrowing as he shifted slightly in front of Lily. The man ignored Dwayne, his focus locked on Lily. "You've been avoiding me," he said, his voice low but filled with menace. "That's not a good idea, Lily." Lily's hands trembled as she clutched her apron. I don't have anything for you right now," she stammered. "Not my problem," the man replied coolly. "You know the deal. Deadlines don't change just because you're behind." Dwayne's jaw tightened. "Hey, back off," he said, his voice steady but filled with authority. Finally, the man acknowledged Dwayne, his smirk faltering for the first time. "And you are?" "Someone who doesn't like bullies," Dwayne replied, standing his ground. The man chuckled, though it was clear he wasn't amused. "This is none of your business, big guy. Walk away." Dwayne crossed his arms, his towering presence making the man hesitate. "When someone's threatening a hard-working waitress in her own workplace, it becomes my business." The man's smirk returned, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. He leaned closer to Lily, ignoring Dwayne. "You have until Friday. No excuses. You know what's at stake." With that, he turned and strode out of the diner, leaving an eerie silence in his wake. Lily sank onto a nearby stool, her face pale and her breathing shaky. Dwayne crouched beside her, his voice gentle. "Lily, who was that? What's going on?" Tears welled up in her eyes, but she quickly wiped them away. It's complicated," she whispered. "I've got time," Dwayne said, his tone unwavering. "Let me help you." Lily hesitated, her walls visibly crumbling. She glanced around the diner where curious customers pretended not to eavesdrop. "Not here," she said quietly. "I'll tell you, but not here." Dwayne nodded. "Okay. When you're ready, we'll talk." For the rest of the day, Lily worked in a daze, her usual cheerfulness replaced with a haunted expression. Dwayne stayed in the diner, keeping a watchful eye on her. As the sun began to set and the last of the customers trickled out, Lily approached Dwayne. Her brother Sam stood nearby, his face tense. "We can talk now," Lily said softly. Dwayne nodded and followed them to a booth in the far corner of the diner. Lily glanced at Sam, who gave her a reassuring nod. "I don't know where to start," Lily began, her voice shaky. "But if I don't do something soon, we're going to lose everything." Before she could say more, the sound of shattering glass echoed from the kitchen. All three of them jumped to their feet, and Sam bolted toward the noise. Dwayne exchanged a quick glance with Lily before following Sam. When they entered the kitchen, they found the back door wide open and a broken window pane on the floor. "What just happened?" Sam asked, his voice trembling. Dwayne scanned the area, his senses on high alert. "Someone was here," he said grimly, "and I don't think they're done." Lily's face turned pale again, and she clutched Dwayne's arm. "They're sending a message," she whispered. Dwayne's expression hardened. "Not on my watch," he said. The air in the kitchen felt thick with tension. Dwayne knelt by the broken glass, carefully examining the scene. The jagged edges of the window frame and the faint scuff marks on the floor told him someone had forced their way in and left in a hurry. Sam paced nervously, glancing at the shattered glass. "Do you think it's the same guy who came earlier?" he asked, his voice shaking. Lily didn't answer. She stared at the broken window, her face pale, as if she were replaying a memory she wished she could forget. Dwayne stood up and turned to Lily. "You said this was a message," he said firmly. "What kind of message? Who are these people?" Lily hesitated, her hands twisting in her apron. "It's complicated," she began, but Dwayne held up a hand to stop her. "No more of that," he said, his tone gentle but firm. "You're in real danger, and I can't help you if I don't know the truth. Start from the beginning." Lily looked at Sam, who gave her a small nod. She took a shaky breath and began. "It started about a year ago," she said quietly. "After our parents passed, Sam and I were left with nothing but debt. I had to drop out of college to work full-time at the diner. At first it was manageable, but then Mr. Wilkins raised the rent on our apartment, and things started spiraling." Dwayne listened intently, his brow furrowed. "We got desperate," Lily continued. "I borrowed money from someone I shouldn't have. At the time, it felt like the only option." Her voice cracked and she paused to steady herself. Dwayne's eyes softened. "And now they're coming to collect," he said, finishing her thought. Lily nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "I've been trying to pay them back, but with the diner barely making enough to cover our bills, it's impossible. They've started showing up, making threats." She looked at the broken window. "And now this." Sam clenched his fists, his face filled with frustration. "I told her we should go to the police, but she's too scared they'll retaliate." Dwayne considered their situation for a moment, his mind racing. He'd dealt with plenty of tough situations in his life, but this felt different. It was personal. "We'll figure this out," he said, his voice steady. "But first, you're not staying here tonight." "It's not safe." Lily's eyes widened. "We don't have anywhere else to go," she said. "You do now," Dwayne replied. "I've got a place in town. You can stay there until we sort this out." Lily hesitated. "Why are you doing this for us?" Dwayne looked her in the eye. "Because no one should have to face this alone," he said simply. Before Lily could respond, the sound of a car screeching to a halt outside made all three of them freeze. Dwayne motioned for Sam and Lily to stay put as he moved toward the front of the diner. Peering through the window, he saw a black car parked just outside, its engine still running. The driver's door opened and a figure stepped out, their face obscured by the shadows. Dwayne's muscles tensed. Whoever this was, they weren't here for a late-night meal. The figure stepped into the dim light, revealing none other than Mr. Wilkins. Dwayne's sharp gaze locked onto him as he swaggered into the diner, clearly unaware of the tension in the air. "Lily," Mr. Wilkins sneered. "You've caused quite the commotion today. First, you waste time chatting, and now you've got this circus act in my diner." Dwayne stepped forward, his towering frame casting a shadow over the smaller man. "You're done bullying her," Dwayne said coldly. "I know what's been going on." Wilkins scoffed. "You don't know anything? She owes money and I have every right to collect." "That's where you're wrong," Dwayne said, pulling out his phone. He played a recording of Wilkins's earlier threats and some overheard conversations from the kitchen. "This isn't just about money. This is extortion." Lily gasped, realizing what Dwayne had been doing all day, collecting evidence. "You think you're smart?" Wilkins growled. "That won't hold up." "I think it will," Dwayne replied, his voice steady. "I've already sent copies to the local police and my legal team. You won't be able to step foot in this town again without consequences." Wilkins faltered, his bravado slipping. "You don't scare me," he spat, but his voice lacked conviction. "You should be scared of what's coming," Dwayne replied. As if on cue, sirens echoed in the distance. The black car sped off, leaving Wilkins standing there, his face pale. Moments later, police officers entered the diner, and Wilkins was escorted out in handcuffs. Lily turned to Dwayne, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. "You don't have to," Dwayne said. "You've been through enough. Now it's time to rebuild." Over the next few weeks, the diner became a beacon of hope for the community. With Wilkins gone, Dwayne helped Lily and Sam take over the business. He even bought the building, ensuring they would never have to worry about rent again. Lily and Sam transformed the diner into a thriving hub filled with laughter and warmth. The debts were paid off, and Lily returned to school, part-time, to finish her degree. As for Dwayne, he remained a part of their lives, quietly ensuring they had the support they needed. "Sometimes," he told Lily one day, "all it takes is one act of kindness to change everything." Moral of the story: kindness has the power to transform lives. By standing up for what's right and offering help without expecting anything in return, you can create ripples of positivity that extend far beyond yourself. Even in the face of adversity, courage and compassion can pave the way for a brighter future.